evidence, one of the forensic evidence that was strong was that his DNA was found in semen in her body. He said they had sexual intercourse 2 or 3 days earlier, consensual sexual intercourse. The experts for the prosecution in the trial completely erroneously said that the semen were there only for a few hours, otherwise they would disappear, and that's false. It was false then, it's false now. Sperm in the body, a live sperm, they last alive for at least 4 or 5 days, so that the finding of his DNA in no way connects him to the death a few hours earlier, and I think that was a major concern at that time, especially because there was the issue of she's white, he's black. It wasn't credible that he would have consensual sex with her at that time when this happened.
One thing that I think is kind of worth talking about is she's found sort of on her back like this. And there's lividity kind of on the top of her face here, on her arm here like this. And that's the signs that a body is moved.
In order to get the lividity in the places that Bryce mentions, she had to be laying face down for at least 4 or 5 hours. She was strangled. She died of ligature strangulation with a belt. Part of that belt was found next to the truck. The other part was found at the scene where the body was found. Clear evidence that she was in the truck, was dead, as does the decomposition fluids show that, and then taken and placed in the bushes where she was found some hours later.
We've talked to Detective Sergeant Kevin Gannon, experienced homicide sex crimes investigator. He's told us that everything about these scenes are staged, that a person who would have committed this murder in an attempt to evade detection would not have left one half of the murder weapon next to the truck and one half pointing at the body. They would not have left her name tag tucked between her legs. So this was a staged crime scene, and we need to do the kind of DNA testing which will confirm a mountain of evidence that continues to point to the police's initial suspect, which was a man named Jimmy Finnell. In fact, Jimmy Finnell was the prime suspect in this case. There was serious missteps in the initial investigation, but for months after the murder, Jimmy Finnell was interrogated harshly. He was looked at in any number of ways. And in fact, after he failed a second polygraph about whether he had killed Stacy, he took the fifth and refused to cooperate in the investigation. It really was not until Rodney Reed was charged with the murder and identified with this DNA that the state's theory of a rape murder even arose. How could they have continued to suspect Finnell after he had been excluded from the semen? So this idea of it being a rape murder only took place after Rodney was identified by the sperm. What's interesting, as Dr. Bodden has talked about, that the time of death had to be before midnight, had to be 4 to 6 hours before the truck was found. And so that is a period of time that Jimmy Finnell testified at trial. He and Stacy were alone in their apartment. All of this evidence exonerates Mr. Reed and implicates Jimmy Finnell. And only in the last couple months, we've found alarming new evidence, again pointing to Jimmy Finnell. That includes 3 different police officers who have made statements that both established Stacy was cheating with a black man. Those are statements from Jimmy Finnell to a friend of his, a Bastrop County police officer. He said that Jimmy told him that Stacy was sleeping with a black man. He didn't use those nice of a word. We were contacted by an attorney who said, I've got a client in the jail, and we went and investigated. Turns out that there was a leader of the Aryan Brotherhood in prison who served time with Jimmy Finnell. And in the course of their interactions, Jimmy Finnell confessed to the murder, and he said, again, that he did it because Stacy Stites was sleeping with a black man.
And further, there's a lot of evidence in the truck. She was on the driver's side with decomposing fluids there, and the truck was not fully examined. And the truck, as I understand, was given back to the fiancé, who was with her in the hours before 3 a.m. in the morning when she was dead. and the forensic evidence was never properly examined.
All of these statements, all of these suspicious behaviors from Jimmy Finnell, all of it implicates Finnell and exonerates Mr. Reed. So if you go to innocenceproject.org, we have a link that you can find information about how to contact your representatives, especially if you're in Texas. Look at innocenceproject.org and you can learn how to contact your representatives and the governor and ask them to take a close look at this case. I think that when you look at the facts of this case, not the rhetoric, not the sort of unproven accusations, what actually happened, there's no getting around the fact that if we go forward with this execution, we'll be executing somebody who didn't commit the crime.